sports updates with Ruben Kasera and Pima Chivirango. Welcome to an extension of Good Morning Uganda, which is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Once again, I'm Robert Chirabo. Thank you for keeping it with us right from the hour of 6:30 till now. We do appreciate it. And in case you've just joined, this is our morning show, Good Morning Uganda, with this extension of Extra, where we look at issues of national concern. We spice up your mornings, so make it a date every weekday to start your day with us. From 6:30, we are here, and I guarantee you, you'll fit in any sensible discussion. Politics, health, discuss anything. We have a full packaged breakfast show for you. Now, this morning we are going to be discussing another interesting issue. We want to look at our 60 years of independence, our journeys in terms of culture, our journeys in terms of preserving what is ours, but also achievements of two very important government parastatals. Sometimes we may not consider them so much, but they play a very vital role. And joining me on stage to discuss this, I have Dr. Mildred Barungi from the Uganda Development Corporation, UDC, and she happens to be the manager in charge of research. Doctor, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
And then on my extreme end, I have, that is Francis Peter Odeche, who happens to be the executive director, Uganda National Cultural Center. Most welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers.
Well, I'll begin by knowing more about you for the benefit of our viewers. When we talk about, first and foremost, these are two different bodies, though there's something that brings you together. Now, when we talk about Uganda Development Corporation, that is UDC, Dr. Mildred, help us understand, what is this? Is it a governmental parastatal? Is it an NGO? What's your mandate?
Thank you, our host, Chirabo. Dr. Mildred Barungi are my names. I've already been introduced. At UDC, Uganda Development Corporation, I'm in charge of research into industrial development. I also monitor performance of UDC as an institution, but also UDC has several investments. So I'm in charge of that monitoring and evaluating to ensure that we are on track. Or maybe also to say a little bit about why UDC and Uganda National Cultural Center, why the two institutions under the same, on the same show. You know, culture is a way of life, and it has a lot to do with the development process of any country. And as UDC, our mandate is to drive industrial and economic development. And so culture matters. If our way of life is farming, it means we are going to promote that farming to ensure that we are able to have sustainable agro-industries. So the mandate of UDC, like I've highlighted, is to ensure that we promote and facilitate industrial and economic development in this country. And we focus on a number of sectors of the economy, one of them being agro-industries. And in that space, we've achieved a number of milestones, which at an appropriate time I will speak to them. We are also into mineral value addition. We are into infrastructure and services. And in the very near future, we are going to be to expand into what we call knowledge-based industries. Thank you.
Well, that moves me to then the Uganda National Cultural Development Center. Recently, you just celebrated. You had a very big festival here at the National Theatre. And I must say it was successful. At least I was privy to attend a bit of it. Yes. Not completely all about 2 or 3 days, but at least last day, and really it was fun and very interesting. But let's also look at the mandate. Yes. What is your role at the Uganda National Cultural Development Center?
Robert, thank you very much, and viewers. You have already introduced me. My name is Francis Peter Ojede, and I'm the Executive Director for the Uganda National Cultural Center. A number of you sometimes call it the National Theatre, but really that's just one project of the Uganda National Cultural Center. Now, the Uganda National Cultural Center is a body established by an Act of Parliament, and is one of those very old institutions. It was established in 1959. And as a result, we have, with the mandate of preserving, promoting, and popularizing art and culture in this country. And then specifically in the Act, it clearly says that one of the main roles that we do is to facilitate the development of art and culture in this country, and also establishments of theaters, and also we are supposed to host and also facilitate institutions that support education, philanthropy, and all those areas. So it's a wider mandate. But like my sister, Dr. Mildred said, we crafted up a partnership with the Uganda Development Corporation, because as Sia said, their main role is basically to make sure that they plan and facilitate development in this country. And definitely, if we're going to look at art and culture, we're just not going to look at art and culture, but we're going to look at it from the perspective that art and culture must end up with something tangible, meaning that we need development. And therefore, they, being experts, would work with us to make sure that whatever products we have are turned into development products. And as a result, they turn into economic goods, which in the end we are able to market and sell, so that the people who are doing this are able to earn. And I think that's the main thing about it, so that we earn, and then we can put back whatever we earn, we can reinvest. And those are the concepts that we're already collaborating on. In our last edition of the UNCC Annual Art and Culture Festival, they were a main partner. They supported the festival. And one of the key things that happened in that was that we were able to bring a lot of people together to be able to understand what they're supposed to do. We brought quite a lot of people. The Batwas that you are familiar with, right from Kisoro were here. We brought a lot of performers from, Acholeland. We brought Bugisuland and so forth. So there were quite a number of performers. But we do not just want to see them perform. We want to enjoy the performance, but at the end of the day, we want that performance to bring something on the table, to bring something for them to. So that's why we are now talking with them and saying, how can we establish cultural centers and theaters at the regions? Is that something feasible? How can we, because the mandate allows us to do, and they are the ones to prioritize some of those things. So those are the discussions that we are having and saying, how can we market our people internationally? So you realize that the debate is getting bigger and wider, and in the end, I think as we work together as the two institutions, we'll make these things work out, and the art and culture sector will grow, and as they also fulfill their mandates.
Very interesting. We hope so much happens through this synergy. But that brings me to Dr. Mildred. Now, when we talk about development, then we talk about art and culture. One thing is, he's talked about how optimistic he is that this will really lead into something. But what methods have you put in place for this to be achieved? In case, what is the progress so far in this marriage?
Thank you very much. Before I speak about that progress, just like the former speaker, I also want to give a history about UDC. Sometimes it's important to know where we are coming from and where we are going. So I want to say UDC is slightly older but yet new. It was formed in 1952. That was the first Uganda Development Corporation. And by 1970, it had grown so big that it was employing the second biggest employer after public service. It was employing over 2,400, 24,000 Ugandans. And remember then the population was still small. So it was a very big employer. It was contributing over 33% to total government revenue. It was really doing great things. UDC had over 38 subsidiary companies, meaning they were fully owned by UDC. It had 19 associated companies, meaning that UDC had shares in those companies. And so, yes, it was doing very well. But towards the late 1970 up to mid-1980s, due to the political upheavals, UDC companies' investments started struggling. They started returning losses, and so they were depending on the government treasury to sustain them, which was not sustainable. And so under the structural adjustment programs, UDC, the investments of UDC were privatized. But at that time, the private sector was still very weak to keep these investments afloat. And so what happens in 1998, UDC closes shop. That is the old UDC. It remained closed until 2016. So you can imagine we've been closed for quite some time. But we are back. In 2016, we were reestablished by the UDC Act of 2016. The mandate remained the same, like I indicated, promote and facilitate industrial development. And we are doing it by establishing, we work with the private sector, we establish subsidiary companies, we establish associated companies just like before. And we've been able to register some remarkable progress. In the previous sectors that I told you we focus on, agro-industry, infrastructure and services, and minerals. So if I will speak very quickly about the agro-industries, UDC, when it came on board, there were a number of tea companies that were struggling. They were on the verge of closing, and yet they are the main source of livelihood for very many people in Western Uganda, specifically in Toro sub-region, in Kigezi sub-region. So what did UDC do? UDC comes in, provides some equity, provides some additional tea processing lines, so that the people in that area could have a sustained market where they could take their tea leaf for processing. Of course, we export most of the tea, and it means our tea exports increase, and the country earns foreign exchange. So UDC was able to revive Mpanga Tea Factory, Mabale Growers Tea Factory, Kayonza, Kigezi Highland Tea Limited. And we did not stop at reviving such ailing factories, but also UDC has gone ahead to invest in new subsidiary companies. I'm sure you've heard about Soroti Fruits Factory. It's one famous UDC project. We have a brand juice called Teju. It's almost in all supermarkets in Uganda. We are doing some exports recently. We started exporting even within the region. So we are processing the fruits. So UDC comes in that space to, first of all, add value. And you will agree with me, the president is always emphasizing value addition. We need to add more value and create jobs in the process. And so that's what UDC is doing in terms of development. As you sustain, as you create new industries, you're creating employment for the factory operators. You're creating employment for other people who participate along the value chain. Some are suppliers, some are transporters. So UDC has really registered some success when it comes to agro-industries. But like I indicated, we are also into the space of infrastructure development. If you go to Kalangala district, there used to be no road. People were crossing from Masaka to Kalangala using small boats. It is risky, and only a few people can, travel at a time. UDC comes in and invests in two ferries, MVP, Kalangala, and PAL. Those ferries, it's their road now. They are transporting a number of people, they transport vehicles. And remember, in Kalangala, we have a very big oil palm project, which processes the oil palm that is transported to, in Kalangala, they do the crude oil. The crude oil is transported to Jinja, Bidiko for further refining into the cooking oil, the magic washing powder that you see. All that transformation would not have happened without UDC, because this is capital intensive. The private players would not have afforded to invest in such. So UDC comes into such space not to compete with the private sector, but to provide this critical infrastructure that ordinarily you and I cannot put in place, and yet they are very critical for the development of the country. If you go to Kalanga right now, it's not just the ferries. UDC invests in power generation, the water treatment and distribution, so the lives of the people are much better than before, and that's the kind of transformation we are speaking about. And we are expanding into so much space beyond agro-industries, beyond infrastructure. There is so much going on. I will be unveiling.
Now, with that well explained, this brings me to ask Francis, where do you fit in?
A very good question, you know.
Art and culture, where do you guys fit in?
You see, Robert, when you talk about development and you look at it from a holistic aspect of development, you'll definitely not miss out the aspect of the economy. And when you talk of the economy, you realize that the shell of economy is actually culture. The shell of economy, because it's a way of life. And therefore, anybody within the economy must be somebody coming from a cultural background, meaning that you will not miss out a mix between culture and development. It has to be there. You'll actually be shocked to realize that most of the products of development are actually come out from aspects of culture. I would give you examples. We have factories that he has mentioned, and key factories that we're talking about. You know, you can talk about, you know, cloth factories, those that make clothes and so on. If you're going to have such a factory, you need artists to do designs. And the designing aspect is going to be done by the artist. If you want factories like you said, the Bidcos and so on, the packaging and the advertising and so on, those labels and so on, they have to be done by artists. And these are all aspects of culture. Now, when you look at even go now, the president is saying, let us have these buses, electric buses and so forth. All those designs have to come from artists. And you'll be shocked to realize that even the planes that we sit in, going a little bit higher, the planes that we sit in, most of them look like a shark. And those designs come from artists. So there's no way you're going to do any development without involving artists. Artists play a big role in ensuring that developments, the different development patterns take place. So there's a mix, there's a complete knit between art and culture and development. Now, we clearly said that we want to improve the livelihood of our country, Ugandans. And I'm sure that is actually the main thing that UDC wants to do. So they want to improve the livelihood. Now, if you want to improve the livelihood of Ugandans, the people, then you're improving the livelihood of those people who come from cultures. So there's definitely a very strong knit between development and culture, just to give you those examples. Now, recently we have just had, I think about 4 or 5 days ago, we had a group of Ugandans that went to Nigeria, and they were competing in a festival, on a film festival. Of course, we are also happy that at least 2 of them won those awards. And when you go for a film, definitely, what are you filming? You're filming the environment. You're just packaging, you write your scripts, and you film the environment. And most of the environment you're going to film are either those development initiatives that she's talking about. You'll find we have taken pictures of the fruit factories. You've taken pictures of people drinking the fruits. And so, yes, you will want to distinguish between the two just for purposes of making sure that there's clarity, but they have to work hand in hand. And that's where you find that we agreed that we have to have a partnership. When we talk about developing of the cultural centers, equivalent of National Theatre, we're not just going to do it ourselves. We'll need them to come in and say, you are the ones supposed to support these initiatives. And you know that cultural centers, if we establish them, we're going to create jobs for the people in the different regions of Uganda. We're going to, be able to spur other development. Because if that comes, excuse me, other people will come and do their businesses. So the business will expand. So they will achieve, we will achieve, and at the end of the day, we will all find ourselves doing a mandate that supports the government to be able to achieve its objectives. So art, culture, and development are inseparable. Sometimes, and that's where we need to have a conversation. Sometimes development may, because of the process, destroy some of the cultural aspects.
Very true.
Sometimes. And that's why we need to work together so that we're able to do a complete assessment, and then we're able to see how can we minimize the destruction that is caused by development on the cultural aspects. And that's the debate that we always must have. We have seen this happen. There are cases where you find a road is moving or in a particular area that could be facilitated by UDC. It is not in this case for now, but in future they could. And you find that their buildings, their heritage that, you ordinarily want the road to pass there and the heritage is there. What do you do? I think that's where the debate comes, and you bring out the aspect of, can we relocate? And where do we relocate it? How do we? So the assessments are done. And then so that you don't lose out the heritage, and at the same time, you don't hinder development. So development and all those must be neatly discussed. And that's why you see our partnership is very strong. It needs to be there, and they need to support us in terms of also highlighting that these things are important. It brings the number of employment and so forth. So government picks it up and says, I think this is an area that UDC has highlighted. And for us, our interest would be to make sure that that works out, and then we achieve, we deliver what we're supposed to do. So that in itself brings out...
So those are some of the benefits,
yes, some of the
this
benefits
marriage.
Yes.
Well, I'll be going for a short break right now, but when I return, we'll be discussing more on what actually Uganda development, that is corporation, has, particularly for this arts and culture industry. Do they have anything tailor-made for them? Or what interventions or what plans do they have for you? Because day by day, this is an industry that is growing so fast. And sometimes I fear that you may even have more artists than the people that come to view them or attend concerts.
Yes.
Everybody is an artist. Everyone is a musician.
And indeed.
There are so many shows can run mandate almost.
Yes. We have the shows
one,
at the, the National Theatre now. We have shows up to end of this year.
Let's go for this break.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800-100-066 or send a free SMS to YouReport on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
Welcome to the Living Room Stadium. It's the FIFA World Cup. The match is about to start. Food and drink ready. There's no space left for anyone. Come on, get your lucky chair. Take your usual spot. Even the puppy has one. It's preparation time. You can feel the tension in the air. And do you have everything you need to believe?
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tom Feda, refrain from unnecessary engagement with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that short commercial break. Thank you for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. Once again, I'm Robert Chirabonyonyiteno, and with me on set, I have, that is Dr. Mildred Barungi, who happens to be coming from the Uganda, that is Development Corporation, and we are discussing issues to do with development, definitely, of an aspect of culture and diversity, but also have, that is the Executive Director of the Uganda Culture Center, that is Francis Ojede, with whom we are still discussing the same topic. Looking at 60 years, what has been achieved, what plans do they have, how best can we propel development, and of course, for Francis, how best can we see that these people in arts and culture not only entertain, but also move into the field of development, of improving their livelihoods. It's no longer a world where you sing for fun and entertainment is about singing for money.
Yes.
It's no longer a world where all you get is spending lavishly. It's about investing and having investments. So this is where the two merge to ensure that they achieve that. Now, Dr. Mildred, let's look at your future plans. What plans do you have as the Uganda Development Corporation?
Thank you, Robert. As UDC, very closely related to UBC, but this is UDC. The future plans we have cut across. They are not just limited to the cultural aspects. That is just part of it. We are looking to expand our investments, to establish more agro-industries, to explore more minerals. Already we are into Karamoja. The intention is to set up an integrated cement and marble industry. Work is in progress. We are in Masaka. We are in processes of establishing a sheet glass manufacturing plant. We are intending to re-establish the Lake Katwe salt factory that once was but failed. So processes are underway. We are currently, and what relates very closely to culture, UDC in partnership with a private investor. We are establishing the very first of its kind, a conference center at Munyonyo. We are going to host next year the non-aligned movement. You may be aware of it. And so we are not just targeting that conference, we are targeting several other international conferences and even local events. So if we are going to attract Ugandans, foreigners into Uganda, culture is going to be one of the things that is going to attract them to Uganda. They would want to come and see our heritage sites, come and see our way of life. And you know, so by so doing, culture is going to be complementing the efforts of UDC. It will bring in more people who will definitely need services in the hospitality sector, where UDC has already invested. I should have mentioned UDC also happens to own Nile Hotel International and also Commonwealth Resort, Munyonyo, 25% shares. So culture is very important and it's going to complement UDC efforts. And UDC efforts likewise is going to complement the culture aspects that my colleague, Director UNCC, is trying to promote. And specifically, how are we supporting the cultural center? I should mention already in our pipeline projects, UDC is going to support a Igongo Cultural Center in Imbarara. Work is in progress and we are almost getting there. So that's the direction, I should say.
Well, you're so much everywhere. What has been your strength? Because when you talk about other projects you're mentioning, many of them I would say are successful projects. For example, talk about the food factory, you know. What has been your strength when you look at, yes, you are once in existence, you vanished because of circumstances, there was a rebirth of you. What has been your strength?
Oh, thank you so much. We were born, died, and resurrected. This is the new UDC, the young UDC that I'm talking about. Our strength so far, it has been in agro industries. That's where we've invested heavily. We've invested heavily in tea factories. We've invested in the fruits. In the cassava subsector, if you go to Nwoya, there is a one Bukona Agro Processors. By the way, very soon we are going to be receiving an award, that particular company. We are going to receive an award. It's doing very well. We are producing denatured ethanol. It's used for cooking. And we've been exporting it to Vivo Energy, Kenya. We are so proud of Bukona. So we've had great strength in agro industries. And for obvious reasons, majority of Ugandans are in the agriculture sector. That's their way of life. That is culture. We practice farming. So, and previously you will agree with me, we've not been adding so much value. We mostly export agricultural commodities. That's what brings in money into our economy. So UDC has come in, we are adding value, exporting better products that fetch the country. I will tell you, like Mabale Tea Factory, there is a time it had failed even to penetrate the Mombasa tea auction market because of quality concerns. But UDC comes in, takes a value chain approach, gives farmers fertilizers, they improve their practices, and the made tea was of quality and were able to penetrate the market at Mombasa. So I would say we've been very strong in agriculture, but also very strong in infrastructure. I mentioned the Kalangala infrastructure services. The two ferries, big ferries transporting people, vehicles, goods, and supporting people with power. I actually say UDC is the umeme, is the UNRA of Kalangala. Because we are giving them water, we've given them the road, we generate the power for them. So we've been very strong in agro industries, and infrastructure and services. Thank you.
Well, indeed, that is propelling development, like you rightly said. And now this takes me to Francis. Francis, what are your future plans when you talk about the national, that is culture center? What do we expect of you? You've been around as old as Uganda's independence.
Yeah.
And slightly more. So,
slightly more, yeah.
Yeah, so it's indeed a journey.
Yeah, we have been, and I must say that our journey has been a long journey, and a very, very, a journey that was full of ups and downs. One of the biggest challenges that we have had over time is, as you've said, when somebody talks about art and culture, and yet art and culture is the whole way of life of a people, then everybody wants to get into it, even those who may not have the requisite training, the requisite skills, and they want to go in the market and produce. And therefore, we have been having a challenge of quality. I think that's one of the things that we have been working on, aspects of quality. So we are setting standards, we're setting ways in which we're trying to build capacity so that everyone that is in this sector, everyone can join. But then your capacity and the quality must be okay. So just Dr. Mildred just talked about the quality. We have been having, I give an example of film. Somebody produces a film, but a nice film everybody's enjoying, but it doesn't meet international standards. You cannot sell it, you cannot put it on the YouTube. So we need to help people so that, that particular thing is put into the YouTube and so forth. We have developed what we call the digital platform, which is a platform that will help market artist products, all sorts of products, music, dance, drama, talk about those films. So that's one of the things that we've already developed. We're soon going to launch it so that you're able to put your products, quality products. But before you put them, we have a process through which we're going to be able to vet those products. And before that, we want to build your capacity, we train you, we give you all the ways in which for you should have those things. So that is already done. We intend to also set up regional cultural centers, and we've already said in the regional cultural center, I want you to imagine it that is going to be other national theaters, because that's the only way I can present it, because we are looking at setting up those centers with big auditoriums. At the moment, the National Theatre Auditorium here sits only 377. The population has grown. That time, the population was small. So we are now looking at cities. All these cities should be having this similar facility, and that's why we say we are trying to work with
people. Don't have to move all the way just to come to National Theatre.
And we put them there with the required quality that is supposed to be, with the facility that is going to have. So you'll have the sound, you'll have the light, you have the facilities that would host people, you have a facility where you can perform the auditorium, and then, all that. So, and then we also have incubation centers where, people are able to go and do research and be able to try and do things so that the qualities that we're talking about are there. And we'll have staff that we're going to deploy there, who will be able to support people, who will be able to do their things. So that is one of the things that we're doing. So we'll have the auditor. Then we are also going to embark on a lot of regional sensitization and regional, works with a lot of artists in the region, so that they are able to appreciate what we're doing. We have already succeeded in putting structures. Because at the moment, there used to be a problem. Everybody would say the artists are disorganized. And you would probably at that time be right. But you also need to know that artists, as much as you're saying they're disorganized, the things that they do allows them to be disruptive, because they think and they keep thinking. And in the process of thinking, they can be disruptive. But that disruption needs to then eventually be put into context. And that's what we have done. We have now the structure very clear. Of course, UNCC is at the apex. We report to the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development. Then, under us, we have the National Culture Forum as a structure. And under the National Culture Forum, we have all the other domains. If I talk of domains, I'm talking about the different sectors within the art. It's almost 8 of them, with their associations. And all these associations are also linked to the regions. We're talking of North, East, West, and so forth. So now it's going to be easy for us to be able to reach people in the region. It's going to be easy for us to mobilize people from the region. Recently, when we had the festival, we were able to just get to the coordinators in the region and say, give us some good troops that can perform here. Then they quickly do that and bring to you. So this is a way of coordination, and we are proud of this because we are now sure of our coordination. Now, in terms of development initiatives, we are actually saying that let us not just think about things that are conventional. We should even go into issues of fashion, meaning that we should allow people to be able to use sewing machines, train them so that they can make for us clothes that we put on, designed clothes. We have had problems that as a country we do not have a particular cloth that we market, although the Gomez is there and so forth. But you know, if you went to Ghana, they have that Ghanaian cloth. You see them wearing. But they had a deliberate effort to bring that. And I think those are some of the things that we need to lift up some of our cultural attires, which we think, and blow it out so that they will earn us money. Because the country is lacking, we're lacking employment opportunities, and yet these are big employment opportunities. And we think that by working with UDC, even in those factories that we're talking about, we should be able to paint all those factories with pictures. You know, we have artists who can
beautification.
Draw. Yes, the beautification should be done. There's so many hotels. I mean, every hotel we should actually be emphasizing and saying, yes, we should do local things within the hotels. And these are things that government should also support us and make sure that every hotel that is going to be there, at least you have some, because the aspect of local content, some aspect of Ugandan drawings, some aspect of Ugandan art, but the most important thing is there must be quality. They must meet international standards.
Very interesting. You know, I go to many of these places and they have imported imported furniture, imported these art pieces. Yes. And you say, okay.
And you say, what is happening?
You just reach at our airport. I've always criticized some people. I'm like, when you go to some countries, the moment you go to Kenya, the Maasai is everywhere. Not the people.
Yes.
Portraits, you know, paintings, right from the airport, at the border post. They show, this is Kenya, this is what we trade. Come to Uganda, you see.
That is the issue now.
One of the tallest buildings has some booze advert, as if Uganda is all about booze and drinking. Where the artists, where this creativity? But well, time is not so much on our side. Allow me, I'll be giving each one of you just a minute to have your final remarks. And let me begin with Dr. Mildred.
Thank you, Robert. I like the ideas of promoting Uganda's culture and connecting it to economic development. And I should state that Uganda Development Corporation, as the investment arm of government, would be delighted to actually work with the UNCC to put in place, to actualize the plans that they have. And maybe also to provide information that UDC has a guide that we have principles that guide our investments. If you bring a very good proposal of the regional, for example, the regional national theaters, if I may say the regional theaters, yes, and you clearly indicate to us that it's going to create jobs, it's going to make our situation, the situation of the people better. It's going to save us on some foreign exchange that would actually spend importing art pieces. We are going to promote our own Bubu policy. UDC would be really glad to enter into partnership. The great thing is that our mandate allows us to partner with other institutions, government or private, provided there is genuine cause that is going to better the lives of Ugandans. Thank you.
Well, Francis, your final remark.
Thank you very much, Robert and Mildred, Dr. Mildred. Thank you for the discussion. My final remarks is that I think I see a very nice need in terms of culture and development. And I think we are not just reinventing this. This need has always been there, except that we have not exploited it. I'm happy that we are now exploiting this need with the Uganda Development Corporation, which really is the development investment arm of government. We are an institution of government responsible for art and culture, and the two institutions of government working together to make sure that our two mandates are achieved is a great event. It's a great thing to see. We look forward to quickly having an MOU done and signed between the two institutions so that we start having some of these infrastructure, what I would sometimes call common user facilities. Because once you put them there, it is common for everybody. You go and use it, go away, and then, but still you will be able to do them at the highest standard. We also want to emphasize the fact that as they do their developments, we also want to have ourselves have a blueprint in them. Most of these hotels, most of these offices, we should be having our cultural aspects that are from Uganda. We should try to avoid the importations. We should have the boo-boo emphasized in the aspect of art and culture. And that should be something that is possible if our partnership is strong and we sign an MOU. And I believe the next day we'll have so many employed people getting employment, so many people having money in their pocket. We'll take away people from the street. We'll take away people from, sitting idle and not being productive. So those are things that I would say, and thank you very much for hosting us and for sharing these very insightful discussions.
Well, so much is to come. We pray that we live to see this being fulfilled and also taking action. Thank you so much. That is Francis Peter Ojede, who is the Executive Director, Uganda National Culture Center. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers.
Dr. Mildred Birungi, who happens to be from the Uganda, that is Development Corporation, UDC. Thank you for your time. And of course, there's so much hope from what you've told us. And of course, much has been achieved. So that is evidence that even what we hope for will be fulfilled. Yeah. For us who are deeply rooted in faith, we say faith will be it will not be in vain. And of course, our viewers, special thanks for being with us from the hour of 6:30 till now. See you tomorrow, God willing. Have a blessed day. Take care of yourselves. Remember, we have Ebola with us. And please, let's give relevant information. Do not escape from isolation centers. It is all for the good of you and your family and your friends. If you're positive, treatment is free of charge from government. And of course, there are those two toll-free numbers. Let's use them to fight this. We want Ebola done and gone forever from Uganda. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
The